What becomes of a hero when the Imperium itself forgets his name? That question drifts through the ruins of time, unanswered, unwelcome, and yet eternal. It echoes through the stone corridors of 1,000 broken fortresses, through vox channels filled with static and prayer, through the shattered dreams of those who once fought for a brighter dawn that never came. In the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, there are no heroes, only relics of sacrifice, buried beneath layers of bureaucratic silence, sanctified lies, and blood. Yet, sometimes the past does not remain buried. Sometimes a name returns, a name the Imperium itself had chosen to forget. Titus, captain of the Ultramarines, bearer of the Emperor's wrath, the lost hero of Graia. Once his deeds shook the stars. Once he stood defiant against the tide, not for glory, not for power, but for duty. He was the shield of humanity when the sky itself fell in flame, and for that, he was cast down. The story begins in silence, in the cold, echoing void beyond Ultramar. A single strike cruiser drifts through the dark, its hull scarred by ancient wars. Inside, among the dim blue lumen lights and the scent of incense and oil, an Adeptus archivist records a message, a chronicle forbidden to exist. This record is for the eyes of the chapter master alone, he whispers. Subject, Captain Titus, presumed lost, yet now returned. The machine spirit of the cruiser hums with unease, as if aware that something sacred or profane is stirring once more. Vox transmissions, long sealed by the Inquisition, have begun to resurface. A name spoken in reverence and fear. Reports from the edge of known space, of a warrior clad in ultramarine ceramite, bearing the scars of ages. His presence a paradox, officially condemned, yet unmistakably loyal. The Imperium does not forgive, it does not question, it only endures. And yet there are whispers in the dark, whispers that this man, long thought erased, still walks among the stars. To understand what Titus was, and what he has become, one must return to the ashes of Graia. A forge world, once proud, now little more than a charred tomb. The orcs descended in numberless hordes, and the Imperial Guard broke beneath the tide. Titans lay shattered in their cradles, manufactorums burned until the skies turned black. Amidst this nightmare, a single ultramarine captain defied extinction. Titus. He fought not for accolades or relics, but because someone had to stand when all others fell. He led mortals through hellfire, shouldered burdens that would have broken lesser men, and turned the tide by his own strength of will. He slew demons, broke warlords, and faced corruption without flinching. But in the Imperium of Man, faith is not rewarded, it is examined, it is feared. When the battle was done, when victory had been wrested from annihilation, the Inquisition came. They looked upon his deeds not as valor, but as suspicion. For he had resisted the touch of the warp, and no mortal should. No mortal stands before chaos untainted, said the Inquisitor. Then perhaps I am no mortal, Titus replied. Those words sealed his fate. He vanished from Imperial records. His name struck from rolls of honor. His deeds reclassified, redacted, erased. To speak of him became heresy. The Ultramarines did not protest, not openly. The Codex Astartes demands obedience, even when the soul cries out against injustice. And so, for centuries, Titus was lost. But now something stirs within the realm of Guilliman. The Primarch returned, walking among men once more, bearing the Emperor's will made flesh, and with him came change, slow, uncertain, and dangerous. The old order trembles. The Primaries stand as living proof that the Imperium still dares to evolve. And among these towering new warriors, one stands apart. His armor bears the blue of Ultramar, yet older, darker, burnished by time. His left pauldron cracked and reforged. His eyes, not the cold machine light of the Primaris breed, but the fire of a soul tempered by loss. When he speaks, even the reclusiarchs listen. When he fights, the battlefield itself seems to remember. Some call him the Returned. Others whisper a blasphemy. Titus lives. The chronicles say he was elevated to the ranks of the Primaris, reforged through Guilliman's new designs, his body remade by the genius of Belisarius Cawl. But the truth, like all things in the Imperium, is never so simple. What was lost to time between Graia and his return is a wound the Adeptus Astartes cannot probe. Entire archives sealed, witnesses silenced. Even Guilliman himself speaks little of it. But among the veterans of Ultramar, there are rumors that Titus did not simply survive, that he saw something beyond mortal understanding, that during his imprisonment he faced not only the Inquisition's judgment, but something far darker. Some say he was tested by the Emperor himself. Others claim he was broken and rebuilt by Cawl's cold machinery. And a few, heretical in their quiet belief, whisper that Titus never left Graia at all, that what walks among them now is not quite the man they remember. The footage recovered from the Crusade of Narcissus IV shows him clearly, a captain bearing the sigil of the Ultramarines, leading Primaris squads through the burning ruins of a chaos world. His voice steady, commanding, his blade, the Emperor's wrath, gleaming in the stormlight. But in one frame, a single flickering instant, his expression betrays something deeper, not rage, not duty, recognition, as if the horrors before him were not new, as if he had seen them before and lost everything to them once already. The Adeptus Mechanicus deny any anomalies in his gene seed. The chaplains speak of unwavering faith, and yet beneath the surface of every report lies the same unease, a tension unspoken. Because Titus does not pray, where other captains recite the litanies of hate, he remains silent. Where others bless their bolters, he merely cleans them. When asked of the Emperor, his voice hardens not with devotion, but with certainty. The Emperor needs no prayers, he once said, only action. To some, these are the words of a true son of Ultramar, practical, disciplined, unwavering. To others, they are the echoes of something that has seen beyond faith. There is a moment, recorded by a lone servitor on the world of Electra Prime. During the cleansing of the heretic stronghold, Titus entered the sanctum alone. The squad outside heard the clash of metal, the roar of demon fire, the shattering of sacred glass. When they broke through, the chamber was silent. Titus stood amid a circle of ash, his armor cracked, his sword burning with an inner light. At his feet, a figure once human twisted beyond recognition, bearing the mark of the Inquisition. No one spoke. No one asked. The body was never recovered. The footage sealed. In the halls of Macragge, there are new statues now, silent, unmarked. One bears a face that seems familiar, though no name is inscribed upon the plinth. The artisans deny sculpting it. The serfs clean it every cycle, and yet dust never settles on its form. Those who pass it on their nightly vigils swear they feel something watching them, not with malice, but with sorrow. The kind of sorrow only a soldier can understand. The librarians whisper of dreams spreading through the psychic choir, visions of a blue-armored giant walking across the surface of a dead forge world, his shadow long and endless. In his hands, a broken aquila. Behind him, the sound of marching, not of space marines but of the forgotten dead. When the dream ends, the seers wake with blood in their mouths and one phrase burned into their minds. He remembers. Now, across the Imperium, fragments of a truth long buried begin to surface. Data crypts unlocking themselves, Vox archives whispering names forbidden to speak. The Inquisition grows restless, purging files, silencing witnesses. And yet the question remains, why return him now? Why, after centuries of silence, does Captain Titus walk once more beneath the Emperor's light? Is it redemption, or something far worse? The record ends with a single transmission. An Ultramarine officer kneeling before the hololith of Guilliman. The image flickers, half consumed by static. The voice is calm, too calm. "You sent for me, my lord." A pause. The Primarch's voice, distant, resonant, filled with the weight of 10,000 years. "I did. There are matters that must be faced, matters only you can confront." Another pause, longer, heavier. "Tell me, Captain Titus," Guilliman says softly, "do you still remember Graia?" The transmission cuts. The Vox falls silent. Only the sound of static remains, like the breath of ghosts. In the silence of Ultramar, the stars burn cold. Somewhere beyond the veil, something stirs. Not demon, not man, but something that remembers both. And the name Titus spreads once more across the Imperium. A name spoken in whispers. A name the Inquisition would rather the galaxy forget. A name returning from the dark, carrying with it the weight of judgment and the scent of ashes. Because some heroes do not die. They endure, they wait, and when the galaxy forgets them, they return, to remind the Imperium what it once was. The silence of the void stretched endless beyond the viewport, a black sea scattered with dying suns. The strike cruiser, Valiant Oath, drifted through it like a relic of a forgotten crusade, its hull etched with prayers that even the machine spirits had ceased to answer. Inside, the air was heavy with the smell of sanctified oil and stale incense. Servitors whispered litanies to keep the engines from sleeping. In the Strategium, shadows gathered around a single hollow projection, the surface of a world burning. Agri-world Lomas 9, once fertile, now aflame. Cult uprisings, the report said. But those who watched knew better. The fires burned in patterns too precise for chaos, too deliberate for chance. Captain Titus stood at the center, silent as the image flickered. His armor bore no heraldry beyond the Ultramarine sigil. No honors, no purity seals. The others noticed. They always noticed. His silence unnerved them more than any enemy. Chaplain Varanes broke the stillness, his voice a rasp through the Vox grill. "There are reports that the local governor invoked the Emperor's name before the rebellion began. He spoke of visions, of a blue angel descending from the sky." Titus did not look up. Then it was not a vision, it was a warning. On the surface of Lomas 9, ash fell like snow. The faithful burned their fields as offerings to the Emperor, though none could say why. Pilgrims wandered through the smoke, carrying banners of bone and blood. They said angels had walked among them, angels that spoke not of salvation, but of remembrance. When the Ultramarines arrived, they found no enemy formations, no armies waiting. Only silence and statues, thousands of them, standing in fields of ruin. Each bore the likeness of a warrior in ceramite, gazing toward the heavens. Tech Marines scanned the stone. Organic traces, bone dust, not carved, transmuted. Brother Antilochus, a veteran of the Second Company, removed his helmet and stared at the figures. By the throne, these were men. Titus walked among them, his eyes following the endless rows. No, they are men. Their faith made them eternal. The younger Primaris behind him muttered uneasily. The chaplain's Crozius crackled once, a warning for silence. Above them, the clouds churned, lightning without thunder. Within the cathedrum of St. Calliope, the remaining clergy huddled in candlelight. The High Confessor's voice trembled as he spoke to the Ultramarines. They said the Emperor sent his herald, clad in blue. His eyes were light. He walked among the peasants and told them to prepare, that their sacrifices would open the way. Titus's gaze sharpened. "Did you see this herald?" The confessor nodded weakly. "I did, my lord. He bore your face." The confession spread like a contagion. Even among Astartes, whispers began to take root. The people of Lomas 9 worshipped a vision of Titus, not as a captain, but as a saint. His likeness carved into shrines, his words repeated as prophecy. The Emperor remembers those who remember him. Chaplain Varans confronted him in private. You know what this means, brother. A false idol, a blasphemy. The Inquisition will not overlook this. Titus removed his helm, his expression unreadable. And if the Emperor himself wills it? Varanis stepped back. The Emperor does not will men to worship men. Titus turned to the viewport, where fires still burned across the horizon. Then tell me, Chaplain, who do we worship now? On Macraga, word of Lomas 9 reached the highest halls. The Ultramarines Librarius demanded investigation. Gilliman remained silent. For 3 solar days, the Primarch spoke to no one. When at last he convened the council, his words were few. Send the Ordo Hereticus. The Inquisitor who arrived bore the rosette of the throne, her armor black as the void, Lady Varine of the Order of the Key. Her eyes were augmetic lenses, unblinking, her tone cold as scripture. She interrogated the clergy first. None survived more than a day. Then she turned her gaze to the Astartes. When she entered Titus's chamber, she carried no guards. Captain Titus, you stand accused of heretical influence and unlawful veneration. He regarded her without emotion. I stand accused of surviving. Varine's lips curved slightly. And that is precisely what concerns me. The interrogations yielded nothing, only silence and fear. Yet in the Vox logs, fragments appeared, chants in binary, voices reciting prayers that did not belong to any known creed. The Mechanicus denied authorship. The Ecclesiarchy blamed chaos. But in every transmission, one phrase repeated, "The Blue Angel remembers." In the lower hives, faith and madness became indistinguishable. The people began burning their tithes to form smoke patterns resembling the ultramarine sigil. They claimed the Emperor's light now shone through a new vessel, one who had walked the void and returned. Titus ordered no purges. He only watched. When the chaplain demanded action, Titus answered softly, "If the Emperor speaks through the faithful, who am I to silence them?" At midnight, a Vox message reached the fleet, untraceable, encrypted in Mechanicus cant. It bore the sigil of Belisarius' call. Do not let the Inquisition take him. No explanation, no coordinates, just that warning. On the second day, the planet's core began to fail. Tremors rippled through the crust, cathedrals split open, vomiting flame and scripture. Servitors spoke in tongues, reciting machine prayers backward. Lady Varine declared exterminatus protocol. Titus refused the order. "Captain," she hissed, "you defy the Emperor's authority." "No," Titus replied, "I preserve it." When she reached for her bolt pistol, he caught her wrist with one gauntleted hand. "This world is not dying, it's changing." He released her and walked away. Moments later, the Mechanicus relays erupted with code. Not random static, but structure. A pattern. The same binary phrase repeating, "Memory returns." On the bridge, Brother Antilochus watched as the planetary readings stabilized. The crust ceased fracturing. The fires dimmed. Something vast beneath the surface pulsed once, like a heartbeat. "Captain," the serf at the Auspex cried out, "we're receiving coordinates from underground." Titus gave the order to descend. In the caverns below, they found a vault older than the Imperium itself. Its doors were marked not with Imperial script, but sigils of the Emperor's gene laboratories, the same designs used by Cole. Inside, suspended in amniotic stasis, lay rows of forms, not human, not machine. Proto-Astartes, failed, forgotten experiments from the dawn of the legions. Among them, one stood preserved, taller than any, his armor archaic, his features unmistakable. Captain Titus. Silence gripped the chamber. Even the servitors froze. Brother Antilochus turned slowly toward the man beside him. "My lord, how can this be?" Titus stepped forward, his own face reflected in the glass sarcophagus. "Perhaps I never left." The air trembled with distant chanting, the same prayer the cultists had sung. "The Blue Angel remembers." The Inquisitor's pistol rose. "What are you?" Titus did not move. A question the Emperor has yet to answer. She fired. The bolt shell struck and shattered against an invisible field. Sparks danced, then faded. The lights dimmed. The vault came alive. Hollow sigils blazed across the walls. Binary hymns poured through the speakers. A voice, ancient and layered, filled the air. "Prototype Gamma Titus, phase completion confirmed." The soldiers fell back, weapons drawn. The Inquisitor screamed for them to fire. But Titus only stared at the figure in the pod, at himself, and whispered, "So that was your secret call." The stasis field began to fail. The pod cracked, spilling liquid light across the floor. The body inside shifted, eyes opening, blank, golden, endless. Then the vault shook. The mountain split. When the Ultramarines emerged, the world above was gone. A storm had consumed it, light and shadow twisting in unnatural silence. Of Lomas 9, only a crater remained. No survivors, no transmissions, only one final message burned into the fleet's data cores. He remembers. In the halls of Macraga, Guilliman read the report alone, his expression unreadable. He dismissed his advisors, sealing the chamber. When the doors closed, he activated a private hololink. Cole's distorted visage appeared, flickering. Guilliman's voice was low, measured. "You told me the prototypes were destroyed." Cowell's reply was a hiss of static. "Most were, but one survived. He was, necessary." Guilliman's hand tightened. "You remade him." "I preserved him," Cowell countered. "Titus was the key to stabilizing the Primaris gene seed. You know this. Without his pattern, your sons would never have endured the Rubicon." Guilliman said nothing for a long time. Then, softly, "And what walks in his place now?" Cowell did not answer. The connection cut. Far from Ultramar, in the dark between stars, a single figure drifted aboard a silent ship. His armor bore no markings, his face hidden behind a cracked helm. In his hand, the Emperor's wrath glowed faintly, not in light, but in memory. He stared at the distant stars, as if trying to remember which one was home. Then, faintly, like a voice remembered from a dream, he heard it. "You are not forgotten, my son." He closed his eyes. When he opened them, the galaxy burned. On 1,000 worlds, statues began to weep blood. Vox networks transmitted the same corrupted prayer in every dialect. He remembers. Faith turned to terror. The ecclesiarchy declared a new heresy, the cult of the returning angel. But by then, it was too late. Because across the void, something vast stirred. Not a god, not a demon, but a memory, and the Imperium of Man began to remember. The Inquisition purged every record of Lomas 9. The Mechanicus denied the existence of its vaults. The Ultramarines buried their dead in silence. Yet in the black archives of Terra, beneath vaults sealed by the sigillite himself, a new record appeared, unsigned, untraceable. Its title, "The Return of Captain Titus," subject, "Continuation pending," and below it, one final line. "The Emperor remembers what the Imperium forgot." The screen fades, the last sound a single heartbeat, slow, relentless, human, but no longer mortal. The galaxy trembled in its sleep. Whole sectors burned without reason, without command, as if the stars themselves had begun to bleed. The flames of rebellion spread faster than any astropathic warning could contain. Faith fractured. Worlds prayed to different faces of the same god, some to the Emperor, others to the angel in blue. And in the void between those prayers, silence waited. On the shrine world of Parnassus, pilgrims gathered beneath a sky that rained ash. They built altars of scrap metal and whispered that the Emperor's light had found a new vessel. They painted their armor blue, binding themselves with chains to prove devotion. When the Adepta Sororitas arrived to quell the madness, they found not a cult, but an army. Tens of thousands chanting a single phrase, "He remembers." At first, the sisters fired warning volleys. Then the air turned to fire. Their promethium burned blue. Their hymns warped into static. Those who survived swore they saw a figure walking through the inferno, tall, armored, carrying a sword that shimmered like a reflection of something greater. In the orbit above, the fleet received no signal, only a pulse of data. A single glyph, the sigil of the Ultramarines, inverted, burning. On Macragge, Guilliman stood before the hololithic map of the Segmentum Ultima. Red flares bloomed like wounds. His face was unreadable, yet his voice carried the fatigue of 10 millennia. "Faith is unraveling," he said. "Every system that once swore allegiance to the throne now tears itself apart in his name." The Reclusiarch bowed his head. "They believe the Emperor has chosen a new champion." Guilliman turned his gaze upon the gathered commanders. "The Emperor does not choose, he commands, and when he is silent we must speak for him." Yet his hand trembled when he dismissed them. When the chamber emptied, he whispered into the void, "Father, what have you done?" In the deep catacombs of Mars, Belisarius Cawl worked alone. The laboratories pulsed with crimson light, tubes of viscous fluid reflecting the faces of those long dead. He had tried to erase the project, the creation of Titus, but the code refused to vanish. It returned, rewriting itself, spawning fragments of memory that no cogitator could purge. A servitor spoke through a broken vox, voice trembling like an echo of the machine god itself. Prototype Gamma Titus. Awakening cycle complete. Cawl stared into the pulsing data stream. "Impossible. You were never meant to awaken without..." The transmission cut him off with a whisper that was not synthetic. "You made me to remember." On the front lines of the Ultima Crusade, Ultramarines fought beside Astra Militarum regiments whose faith had curdled into fanaticism. Some refused to take orders from the Primaries, claiming their true captain had returned. Others wept openly at the sound of his name. Sergeant Piran, veteran of 100 wars, watched his squad kneel before battle. Their prayers were wrong, their words were wrong, but their eyes burned with conviction. When he confronted them, one of the younger soldiers looked up, trembling. "We saw him in our dreams, my lord. The captain stands beside the Emperor now. He said the Imperium has forgotten what it means to be human." Piran struck him, but the words stayed. That night, he dreamed of blue fire and heard a voice whisper from beyond sleep, "I remember you." The Inquisition fractured. Some demanded the annihilation of every shrine and follower of the Blue Angel. Others claimed Titus was a tool, a secret weapon born from Guilliman's forbidden pact with Cawl. A few in secret chambers prayed to him. Lady Vereen returned from the ruins of Lomas 9 changed. Her augmetic eyes now flickered with faint blue light. She spoke less and less, until her retinue found her in the chapel of St. Drusus, kneeling before an altar that dripped with data ink instead of blood. When they approached, she turned to them, smiling. "He remembers." Then her flesh dissolved into light. The warp screamed. Astropaths across the segmentum burned alive mid-transmission, their skulls bursting into spectral flame. The Astronomicon flickered, not gone, but dimmer, weaker, as if the Emperor himself had looked away for the first time in 10,000 years. Ships lost guidance, fleets drifted blind through the void. In the space between moments, visions came, not of chaos, but of memories. Soldiers saw their fallen brothers walking beside them. Children dreamed of long-dead saints calling their names. Even the servitors hummed fragments of old Imperial marches. The galaxy itself was remembering. In the ruins of Lomas 9, where no life should have survived, a figure walked alone. His armor was cracked, scorched, yet his eyes burned with steady light. The world was ash, but he moved as if guided by purpose older than stars. He stopped before a ruined aquila, half buried in molten stone. Slowly, reverently, he lifted it free. The wings crumbled to dust in his hands. "Faith built this empire," he murmured. "Faith will bury it." He turned his gaze skyward, where distant light flickered like a heartbeat. It begins. On Terra, the High Lords convened in panic. Reports flooded from every sector, statues moving, miracles repeating, saints rising where none were buried. The Ecclesiarch declared them all false. The Fabricator General called them machine echoes. The Inquisition called them contagion. But none could explain why the Emperor's golden throne hummed with a new frequency, or why, for the first time in recorded memory, his corpse eyes flickered open for less than a heartbeat. The Custodes sealed the chamber. They told no one. Across Ultramar, Guilliman gathered his sons. In the Chapel of Heroes beneath the statues of the fallen, he stood before them not as a Primarch, but as a man. "The Imperium stands upon the edge once more," he said. "We face not Xenos nor demon, but memory, a ghost that wears the face of duty." Chaplain Varanes stepped forward. "If Titus has truly returned, my lord, then he must be brought before you, for judgment or for forgiveness." Guilliman's expression hardened. "Forgiveness is for gods. Judgment is for men." The battle for the shrine world of Lumea was swift and merciless. Cultists bearing blue insignia clashed with Imperial Guard regiments shouting the same prayers. Brother fought brother, faith consuming both. When the Ultramarines arrived to restore order, they found the planet already divided, half praying to the Emperor, half to his son in blue. Titus walked among them. He came not as a conqueror, but as a pilgrim. When he entered the Grand Basilica, the battle ceased. Soldiers dropped their weapons. Even the air held its breath. He looked upon the mural of the Emperor, broken, blackened by smoke, and spoke softly. "You raised me to serve. You broke me to forget. Now I remember, and I will remind them what we were meant to be." When he turned, his eyes glowed not gold, but blue. The psychic shockwave reached Terra within hours. Astropaths died instantly. Others saw visions of a figure kneeling beside the golden throne. A voice echoed through their minds, gentle yet unbearable. "He still lives, but he no longer remembers." The Emperor's body convulsed once, unseen by the world. In the void, Guilliman's fleet moved toward Lumea. The Primarch watched the transmissions. The people kneeling before Titus, the sermons spreading faster than fire. He could feel the shadow of his father's silence pressing down upon him. Karl's final message played again, fractured but clear. "Without him the gene line fails. He is not your creation, nor mine." Guilliman's hand clenched, then whose? The truth came not from Mars, nor from Terra, but from beneath the Emperor's palace itself. In the vaults of the Sigillite, a sealed record awakened. The Custodes guarding it heard the lock disengage by itself. The parchment within bore the Emperor's sigil and one line in his own hand. "Project Neiman, to preserve what I cannot become." Below it, a single name, Titus. When the Primarch read it, the chamber shook. He fell to his knees, not in reverence but in horror. "You didn't make him my brother," he whispered. "You made him yourself." The realization spread like fire through his veins. The Blue Angel was no saint, no clone, no legend. He was the Emperor's memory, a vessel carrying fragments of his mind, his will, his unfulfilled humanity. And now that memory had awakened. On Lumea, Titus stood before thousands of kneeling faithful. He raised his sword high, and the light of it spread across the heavens. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Astronomicon flared brighter, but its hue shifted from gold to blue. Pilgrims fell to their knees weeping, astropaths screamed, warp storms flickered like dying hearts. "Rise," he commanded. "Rise, children of man, the Emperor sleeps, but I remember him." And across the galaxy the faithful answered. Guilliman's fleet reached Lumia too late. The planet was already transformed. Cities reshaped into vast temples of blue stone, air shimmering with psychic resonance. As he descended, he felt the presence of his father, familiar yet foreign, distant yet near. Titus awaited him in silence. They stood face to face, Primarch and Echo, sun and fragment. "Brother," Titus said quietly. Guilliman's jaw tightened. "You are not my brother." "No," Titus replied. "I am what he left behind." The ground split. Psychic light erupted. The air rippled with voices, thousands, millions, whispering prayers in every language of man. Guilliman felt his knees weaken beneath the weight of it. "You're tearing the Imperium apart," he growled. Titus stepped closer. "No, Robauta, I'm waking it up." In that instant, Guilliman saw, through Titus's eyes, through memory itself. He saw the Emperor not as a god, but as a man of boundless sorrow. He saw the birth of the legions, the death of sons, the shattering of humanity's dream. He saw the throne as a cage, not for divinity but for remorse, and he understood. The Emperor had not ascended to godhood. He had fled from it. The light faded. Guilliman fell to one knee, trembling. Titus reached out a hand. "Come with me, and we will remember him together." Guilliman looked up, eyes burning with fury and grief. "You are memory," he whispered, "but I am will." His sword rose, "And I will not let you undo him." The clash of blades ignited the heavens. Across the galaxy, every astropath screamed. The Astronomicon pulsed, then split, half golden, half blue. For the first time in human history, two lights burned in the void, guiding ships in opposite directions. The Imperium divided. Half followed the throne, half followed the angel. And somewhere beyond the veil, the true Emperor stirred. Not awake, not alive, but aware. Because memory and will had met, and neither would yield. In the silence after the clash, as stars flickered and warp storms bloomed like dying flowers, a whisper rolled across creation, cold, infinite, and unbearably human. The Emperor remembers, and the galaxy remembered with him. The sky above Lumea burned with two suns, one gold, one blue. Their lights clashed in the clouds, twisting the heavens into a storm of faith and ruin. The planet groaned under the weight of it, tectonic plates shuddering as if the world itself could no longer decide which god to serve. The battle between Guilliman and Titus had ended in silence. Neither slain, neither victorious. Only the air heavy with revelation. Their armies watched from afar, unsure which figure to kneel to. When the light cleared, both were gone, leaving only scorched stone and the echo of two voices still whispering through the wind. On the surface, the faithful tore each other apart. Chaplains screamed conflicting litanies. Priests burned relics that had once guided them. The sisters of battle sang hymns in two keys, half to gold, half to blue, until their voices bled and their tongues turned to ash. Even the angels of death hesitated. Ultramarines fought Ultramarines, each calling the other heretic. For the first time in 10,000 years, the sons of Macragge doubted their father's word. In the void above, the fleets drifted in deadlock. Admirals stared at the split beacon of the Astronomicon, unsure which light to follow. The reports reached Terra like screams through a long tunnel. By the time they arrived, they were already ghosts of truth. The High Lords debated for weeks in chambers that stank of incense and fear. The Ecclesiarch demanded a holy purge of every world that bore the blue flame. The Lord Commander of the Imperial Navy argued for silence, that to acknowledge the schism was to feed it. Only the custodes said nothing. They knew what it meant when the Emperor's light changed color. In the catacombs beneath the throne, the hum of the golden seat faltered. Tech priests prayed louder to mask the sound, but the truth was undeniable. The Emperor's presence was divided. On Mars, Belisarius Cawl stood before a dying cogitator bank. Its screens flickered with the same phrase, repeating endlessly, Project Nemean active. Phase transition, imminent. He reached out a trembling mechadendrite to shut it down, but the machine refused his command. Sparks erupted as ancient code resisted obedience. Then a voice came through the static, not human, not mechanical. You tried to forget me, Cawl, but I was never yours to unmake. The light flared. The Mechanicus data vault screamed. When the glare faded, a sigil burned into every wall, a blue aquila broken down the middle. On Macragge, Guilliman's body was found aboard the Macragge's honor, unconscious but alive. The healers whispered prayers over him, though none dared touch the sword still clutched in his hand. When he awoke, his first words were not commands, but lament. He carries Father's humanity, he murmured, and I carry his burden. We were never meant to meet. He stood before the window and gazed into the stars, where both lights still burned. There is no victory here, he said, only inheritance. Meanwhile, across the segmentum, worlds knelt in blue light. They rebuilt cathedrals from the ruins of manufactorums, carving Titus's likeness beside the Emperor's. To them, he was not heretic nor angel, but the voice of the forgotten. Their creed was simple. Faith without memory is obedience without purpose. For these words, entire hives were purged, whole cities erased from orbit. Yet for every martyr burned, 10 more rose from the ashes. Among them were Imperial Guard regiments who refused orders to fire on fellow believers. Some turned their lasguns on their own commanders. Others marched into the void, singing psalms in binary and blood. The Imperium was devouring itself, and still called it loyalty. In the warp, the gods watched with amusement and dread. The great enemy felt something they had not known in eons: uncertainty. For the first time, humanity's faith no longer served them. It no longer fed the warp's insatiable hunger. Because now, humanity's belief was divided between God and man, between the Emperor who had become silence and the memory that still spoke. The Chaos Gods whispered to one another, fearful of what they sensed. For in the echoes of the Astronomicon, they heard something older than them, a will that was never theirs to consume. Titus walked through the void without ship or air. His armor glowed faintly, a beacon of thought, not light. He saw every soul that remembered him, every prayer spoken in desperation, and carried them as fragments within himself. Each world he passed shimmered faintly, its faith bending. Where he walked, the veil between real space and memory thinned. People awoke from nightmares crying his name. The dead whispered it through the mouths of the living. He did not seek worship. He sought remembrance, the truth that had been buried beneath 10 millennia of blind faith. In his silence, there was sorrow, not anger, not pride, only the grief of one who remembered what humanity had lost. On one forgotten world, an old guardsman sat beside a broken statue of the Emperor. His armor was rusted, his faith long gone. He looked up as a figure stepped through the dust. The guardsman rose shakily, saluting out of habit more than reverence. "My lord, are you real?" Titus removed his helm. His face was scarred, weary but human. "I am memory," he said. The old soldier smiled weakly. "Then remember me when I'm gone." "I already do." When dawn came, the guardsman was found dead, his weapon polished, his wounds healed. The statue beside him had changed. The Emperor's face now bore a faint resemblance to Titus. Within the ecclesiarchal palace, the cardinals tore at one another in theological frenzy. Half declared Titus divine, half called him demon. Scripture was rewritten, burned, rewritten again. One by one, the saints' tombs cracked open, not by miracle but by pressure, centuries of faith and decay bursting at once. Inside, the bones glowed faintly blue. The arch-cardinal screamed for exorcisms, but when he raised his rosarius, it turned to dust in his hands. Guilliman stood once more upon the deck of his flagship, gazing into the rift between lights. The Astronomican's twin beacons pulsed like opposing hearts. He spoke to the assembled captains, voice steady but cold. "We will not fight for gods. We fight for man. That was always our purpose. But if man's memory itself becomes God?" one dared to ask. Guilliman's silence was answer enough. He gave the order. Operation Cataclysm. Every world bearing the blue light was to be purged. And so the sons of Ultramar descended upon their own brothers. The war that followed was unlike any before. It was not fought for territory, nor for survival, but for the soul of belief itself. Planets became altars, faith became weapon, even silence became heresy. In the void, blue and gold fleets clashed, not enemies, but reflections of each other. Every victory felt like a loss, every prayer sounded like a scream. On the battlefield, amidst oceans of blood, soldiers whispered apologies before firing. And in that carnage, Titus appeared once more, not to lead, but to witness. His presence halted armies, his gaze turned warriors into weeping men. He looked upon Guilliman across the smoke of burning heavens. Neither moved, neither spoke. The galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. On Terra, the Golden Throne groaned. Cables snapped, incense burned without flame. Tech priests cried out as their readouts turned to static. Then, for an instant, a sound, a heartbeat. Not mechanical, not divine, human. Every astropath in the galaxy fell to their knees as the Emperor's voice, faint and filled with sorrow, brushed their minds. He was never my shadow. He was my hope. The light of the Astronomican dimmed, then flared once more, both beacons merging into one. But before the galaxy could rejoice, the signal fractured again, splitting into countless shards, each flickering in rhythm with different worlds. The Emperor was speaking, but not to one, to all. Titus stopped walking. He looked upward, eyes filled with light and grief. "He remembers me," he whispered. "And now, he remembers everything." The void trembled. The warp screamed not in hunger, but in terror. Across every world, statues cracked, prayers turned to wind, and every human heart felt the same impossible weight, the sensation of being seen by something infinite. Then came silence. A silence so deep, the galaxy seemed to exhale. The warships ceased fire. The chanting stopped. The twin lights hovered, pulsing, one heartbeat away from unison. Guilliman lowered his sword. Titus bowed his head. Between them, the space shimmered, the veil thinning to a breath. And somewhere beyond, in the quiet of eternity, the Emperor opened his eyes. The stars froze. The galaxies dimmed. Time held its breath. History waited. The light between Titus and Guilliman quivered, a trembling sun suspended between faith and ruin. The galaxy itself seemed to watch, holding its breath across 1,000 dying worlds. No Vox signal carried commands now. No banners waved, only silence. The silence before something divine and terrible decides whether to bless or destroy. Then, from that stillness, the stars screamed. The Astronomican shattered like glass, each fragment burning through the warp as shards of divine will. Every piece fell upon a world, igniting skies with holy fire. Some saw angels descending. Others saw demons crawling through broken heavens. None were wrong. The Emperor's voice echoed through the minds of all his children, fragmented, sorrowful, too vast to bear. "You forgot why I created you." The words felt like confession and judgment both. Ships veered off course, psychers bled from their eyes, and entire fleets vanished into light. On the bridge of the Macrage's honor, Guilliman fell to his knees. His heart hammered with a terror he had never known, not even before Horus. He felt the truth burning inside him. The Emperor lived not in the throne, nor the warp, nor the relics of faith, but in every memory humanity had buried beneath obedience. And Titus was the first to remember. He appeared before Guilliman again, no longer in armor of blue, but in white, scorched with the dust of every world he had walked. His eyes glowed with the dimness of stars about to die. "You see it now," he said softly. The Emperor was never meant to be worshipped, only remembered. Guilliman rose slowly. His voice trembled, equal parts reverence and fury. "Then why do we fight? Why did Father lead us to this? Why damn 10,000 years of devotion? Because even gods forget what they were." The ship trembled as the warp folded inward. Planets screamed as oceans boiled and continents tore apart under psychic storms. The veil was rupturing, not to unleash demons, but to show truth. Every saint's statue bled light. Every shrine melted into rivers of molten faith. On Terra, the golden throne exploded in radiance. The Emperor's body, long dead and decaying, sat upright. The custodes fell to their knees, weapons clattering across marble floors slick with tears and oil. His eyes opened, and all of humanity saw through them. The birth, the wars, the dreams, the betrayal, the grief. For one heartbeat, every soul in the galaxy understood him. And then came the pain. The Emperor's scream tore through existence. Reality itself shook, burning away all illusions. The warp convulsed, gods wailing as if flayed alive. Korn's laughter broke into sobs. Slanesh clawed at the void. Nurgle's garden withered to dust. Even Tzeentch, the architect of fate, could not rewrite what was unfolding. Because this was not change. It was remembrance. The Emperor's essence began to dissolve into the sea of memory that was the warp, and humanity felt his warmth slip away like blood through fingers. In that fading light, Titus knelt. He placed his hand upon the deck and whispered, "If he dies, he takes us with him." Guilliman looked down at him, at the brother he had condemned, the ghost he could never understand. "Then how do we stop what has already begun?" "You don't." Titus looked up, his eyes wet with light. "You finish it." The rift widened. The two suns, gold and blue, drew closer, their fires intermingling. The heat burned through ships, through armor, through flesh. And yet none turned away. Every mortal eye stared into that blinding unity, knowing they would never see again. Guilliman reached for his sword. It trembled in his grip, pulsing with power it could not contain. The blade that had slain kings and demons now weighed heavier than guilt itself. Titus stepped forward, unarmed. One must endure. One must remember. Guilliman shook his head. "I will not strike you again." "You won't?" Titus smiled faintly. "You'll set us free." He took Guilliman's hand and guided the blade to his chest. For an instant, the galaxy fell still. No gunfire, no cries, no whispers, just the sound of steel meeting faith. When the sword pierced him, light erupted not outward, but inward. Every soul that had ever served the Imperium felt it, a warmth, a memory, a heartbeat they had long forgotten. The light traveled through the warp, dissolving corruption as it went. Chaos screamed and recoiled. The veil between real space and nightmare burned clean. and then it was gone. Titus's body dissolved into motes of dust, his armor collapsing empty to the deck. Guilliman fell beside it, clutching the hilt still embedded in the floor. The ship's windows filled with silence, stars no longer screaming, just watching. The Astronomicon rekindled, but its light was different now. Not golden, not blue. White, pure and soft, like morning cloth. It did not command, it guided. Across the Imperium, soldiers lowered their weapons. The Sisters of Battle wept openly before their relics, finding no flame, only quiet. Tech priests looked into the binary and found it whispering prayers they had never written. In the ruins of hive worlds, children dreamed of a man in white walking through endless fields, his voice calm, saying, "You are not forgotten." On Terra, the Golden Throne went dark, but no one panicked. The custodes bowed their heads. They could still feel him, not as an emperor but as presence, as memory, as love remembered too late. Guilliman rose at last. His armor was cracked, his face streaked with ash and tears. He looked toward the fading rift, where light met shadow, and whispered, "He lives in all of us now." But even as he spoke, the void flickered. Something stirred within it, not chaos, not God, but something older, patient, waiting. For in the moment, Titus's soul had scattered, fragments of him had fallen into the warp. And they did not fade. They multiplied. Each spark became a seed of remembrance, carried on psychic winds, embedding in the hearts of mortals. Wherever those sparks landed, people awoke remembering lives they never lived, battles they never fought, names they had never spoken. Memory became contagion. Humanity began to remember its forgotten past, every cruelty, every triumph, every sin. The truth was spreading, and with truth came doubt. Faith wavered, not out of disbelief, but out of awakening. The Imperium's strength, blind devotion, began to crumble, replaced by something more dangerous, understanding. Guilliman saw it in the eyes of his warriors. They were no longer unquestioning. They were thinking, remembering, asking. He looked once more at the hilt of his sword, still warm with Titus's final act, and knew the war was far from over. For even without the gods, humanity would still find something to worship or to destroy. Outside, the warp had grown strangely calm. No storms, no whispers, just an ocean of quiet thought. Yet beneath that stillness, something vast was stirring, as if the universe itself had begun to dream. And within that dream, a voice lingered, faint but resolute. "We are not meant to be eternal, only remembered." Guilliman turned toward the stars, now pale and soft against the void. "Then I will remember you, brother," he said, "and may the galaxy do the same." The stars pulsed once, in answer. Far below, the people of countless worlds looked up to that new light, not as worshippers, but as witnesses. The Imperium still stood, scarred and trembling, but changed. The banners still flew, but their colors seemed quieter now, touched by grief. The war was over, yet peace did not follow. Only silence, the silence of realization. The silence after a prayer has been answered, and no one knows what to do next. In that silence, something eternal shifted. The galaxy felt lighter, emptier, older. The Emperor no longer bound to flesh or machine, but diffused through his children's memories, like the last warmth of a dying sun. And somewhere, across the stars, a single spark of blue drifted through the dark, faint, flickering but unextinguished. It carried no words, only remembrance. The promise that even in the darkest millennium, one light would endure. Not divine, not eternal, but human. And as that lonely spark faded into the void, the galaxy whispered its final prayer. Remember him. The galaxy sleeps beneath the ash of its own miracles. The stars, once fevered with war and worship, now drift in quiet resignation. The fires of the Astronomicon have softened to a white haze, pulsing gently like a dying ember, no longer a command, but a remembrance. And in that pale light, the Imperium endures, though changed beyond measure. The wars have ended, or perhaps paused. One can no longer tell the difference. Entire sectors lie empty, their worlds reduced to ghosts whispering through the void. Yet amid that silence, life stirs, hesitant, unafraid, as though awakening from a dream too long endured. On Terra, the Golden Throne stands empty. Its mechanisms lie cold, its circuits choked in dust. The custodies keep their watch still, though they guard only silence. None have dared to enter the throne room since the day the Emperor's light fractured. They say if one listens closely at the gate, they can hear the echo of a heartbeat, faint, irregular, not divine, but human. The Mechanicus refuses to speak of it. The ecclesiarchy denies it ever existed. But some nights, the wind through the ruins of the palace sounds like the sigh of a man at rest. In the catacombs below, where once the faithful were buried with prayers and incense, a remembrancer writes by candlelight. He does not know his own name. It was lost in the purge of archives that followed the Great Silence. His hand trembles as he inscribes each word into parchment made from recycled scripture. He writes of the final war, of Titus and Guilliman, of faith reborn and forgotten again. He writes not as historian or priest, but as witness. He pauses often, looking toward the vaulted ceiling where the bones of saints still hang suspended in stasis fields. The faces of those who believed beyond reason, who killed and died for an emperor they never saw. He wonders if they dream, if in their eternal stillness they remember the light that once was. Beyond Terra, the void is filled with wandering relics. Fragments of ships, ruined stations, monuments drifting like bones through starlight. On some of them, candles still burn. No one knows who lights them. Some say the sparks of Titus still wander, flickering from world to world, kindling remembrance where hope has turned to stone. Others whisper that the Emperor himself, no longer confined to flesh or throne, moves among the stars unseen, breathing life into forgotten corners of his creation. On Macragge, the fortress monastery stands silent. The banners are torn, the armor of the Ultramarines lies piled like offerings before the statue of their primarch. Guilliman no longer sits upon his throne. He has vanished into the dark between stars, leaving behind only a single message inscribed upon his blade. Duty is not to rule. It is to remember. No one speaks of Titus now, not openly. His name has become dangerous again, not heresy, but memory. And memory is a fragile, rebellious thing. The ecclesiarchy preaches his absence as proof of divine judgment. The Mechanicus codes his name as anomaly. Yet in the hearts of those who serve and suffer, his image lingers like an after-image of a candle burned too long. The man who was not God, who carried humanity's forgotten soul through the storm. The Sisters of Battle have ceased their hymns. They walk the battlefields of old, collecting relics and burying the nameless dead. Their chants now are soft, not prayers, but lullabies. The Adeptus Astartes are fewer, quieter. Some have laid down their arms entirely, wandering the Imperium as penitent guardians, defenders without masters. Their armor is painted neither gold nor blue, but white, unadorned, carrying no sigil but a single tear etched upon the chestplate. There are still wars, of course. There will always be wars. But they are smaller now, almost human in scale, feuds of survival, not prophecy. The great crusades are gone. The endless calls to purge and sanctify have dimmed. The Imperium, for all its vastness, has become introspective. It no longer prays to conquer the stars. It prays simply to endure them. The warp, once a raging sea of chaos, has quieted into strange calm. Its storms drift like fading dreams, their edges soft, their colors muted. The gods of old are gone, or changed, or sleeping. None can say. Pilgrims speak of traveling through it unscathed, guided not by beacons, but by dreams of home. Some claim they hear a voice in the silence, gentle and distant. Remember what you are. And so, humanity remembers, not perfectly, not purely, but enough. Enough to rebuild, not in glory, but in humility. Enough to see one another as something more than instruments of faith. In the ruins of once holy worlds, crops grow where blood once pooled. Children play in the shadows of cathedrals whose bells no longer toll for war. The remembrancer writes these things knowing few will ever read them. Knowledge is still a dangerous thing, but he writes anyway because silence is worse. He dips his quill in black ink and lets it fall upon parchment like ashes. Each word a memorial, each line a confession. He writes of men who became gods and gods who learned to die. He writes of a galaxy that mistook devotion for love and obedience for salvation. When he finishes, he sets the parchment aside and steps into the cathedral's open nave. The air smells of dust and old oil. Through the broken roof, the stars are visible, cold, distant, endlessly patient. He kneels, not to pray but to listen. For somewhere out there, beyond the edge of reason, something still hums. Not the Emperor's light, nor the song of saints, but the quiet pulse of existence itself. He wonders, as all men do, what it means to survive, whether survival without purpose is triumph or tragedy, whether faith without truth can ever lead to peace, and whether humanity in the end was ever truly meant to endure, or merely to be remembered. He rises slowly and walks toward the great doors, his footsteps echoing through the hollowed hall. As he passes beneath the statue of the Emperor, he pauses. The stone face has eroded over millennia, its features softened, almost human now. The eyes, worn smooth by time, seem to look down not in judgment, but in weary compassion. He reaches out, brushing his fingers against the marble and whispers, "Rest now." Outside, the wind carries the sound away into the ruins. In the distance, a new dawn bleeds across Terra's horizon, not golden, not blue, but pale white, like memory reborn. The stars remain silent, but in that silence, the galaxy breathes again. The war has ended, yet the story endures. Not in scripture or monument, but in those who remember what was lost and dare to love it still. Somewhere in the farthest void, a faint spark of blue drifts through the dark, untouched by time. It flickers once, twice, then fades, not extinguished but at peace. The remembrancer closes his eyes and smiles, the quill slipping from his fingers. He is gone, he murmurs, and yet he remains. And as the candle gutters out, its smoke curling like a spirit into the night, the last line of his chronicle glows faintly on the page, written not in ink, but in light. In the darkness of the far future, even forgotten men can carry the weight of gods. Then the page turns blank, as if history itself chooses silence. The galaxy drifts onward, and somewhere, beyond the reach of stars, memory waits. If this tale moved you, if the echoes of faith, war, and remembrance stirred even a shadow of wonder, then lend it your voice. Like, subscribe, and share this chronicle with others who walk in the light and darkness of the 41st millennium. Leave your thoughts, your prayers, your questions in the comments below. For in the telling, the memory endures.